Oh,
Hello.
hi.
Welcome, welcome. I'm Jared. Nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you too. It's an honor, of course, for us.
I'm excited to chat with you. We'll just wait. Let's give it another 5 minutes just because some other people might hop on the call. And then we can get going, okay?
Sure. All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to remove this people?
It's 8:30, right? 8:30 in your side. AM.
Yes,
correct?
yeah, it's the morning over here. How about for you?
It's 9:27 right now.
Wow.
PM.
Well, yeah. Well,
And we
thank you.
just had our class as well until 9 p.m.
Okay, so you're still working. It's not your Friday night yet.
Not yet.
Wow. Oh, yeah, it's so fun to work across time zones. It actually snowed at my house last night.
Wow, amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
When does snow usually start? Like, is it early November? Like, do you guys expect that to happen?
Yeah, this time is about normal. Yeah. All the leaves just fell off the trees and now it's snowing. And where in the Philippines are you located?
So we're currently located at Makati, so it's central business district. So it's a very busy city, but it's very progressive and very urban.
Got it. Wow. It's a place, I have not yet to visit the Philippines, but it's high up
Oh,
on
you
my
should. And we
I
are
know.
very willing to take you to our 7,100 plus islands.
I would love it.
We
I
also
would love that.
want to introduce you to a lot of Filipino food.
Yeah, and cuisine.
Mm. It's very, yeah, I love Filipino food, so.
So what's your favorite?
Have you tried any?
Oh, I can't remember any of the names. What is it that I really liked? I can't even remember at the moment.
Yeah, that's
I've been to a number of restaurants and it's just like I always forget. I'm
Must
really
be
bad at
Cabisero.
remembering names. So
Cabisero is very popular now in the US.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep. And I live in Pennsylvania, so if you know anything about Pennsylvania, this is where like the Amish are from, with the horse and
Oh, yeah.
buggies. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So, well, great. It looks like it's time, so I think we can get started here. I'm just really excited. Yeah, I think just so you guys know, I think there's going to be some other people logging in to watch, but they can't talk, but they might post some questions that if we have some time, we can try to answer. So just wanted to give that heads up. So great. So I'm guessing you're Emmanuel, and are you Giselle?
Jadel.
Hazel, sorry. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Well, great. It's so good to meet you. Chelsea shared with me your responses, but I always love to get started with coaching sessions just to hear you pitch. So can you just tell me about Padama?
All right, so Padama, it's actually pronounced as Padama. It actually means to care and to support in Filipino. So our vision is to make Philippines and of course the world to be food and health literate by 2030. So our goal is to really empower patients to know their food allergies. That's actually our MVP.
And what you wanted to do is to also empower the food business sector. Because currently, right now, if you go in a restaurant, you will usually see their menus, and it's not curated or not personalized based on your health profile or your diet specifications. And so what you wanted to do is, by using Padama, the business owner or the restaurant can specify food or curate food for specific customers. And also, we wanted to develop the first food database here in the Philippines, wherein we wanted to empower the healthcare providers on how can they better create premium packages for patients. Since we feel that, if you go to a doctor, it doesn't stop there. I mean, if you take, let's say I'm allergic to nuts, or like I have a high diabetes, it doesn't stop by just drinking medicines. It should link to a lifestyle. And we wanted to change the habit of Filipinos of, okay, I drink medicine, but I eat this. I eat high cholesterol, food. So in order to bridge that gap, we wanted to work with the food restaurants, because here also it's interesting that Filipinos love to dine out. And so by working with the restaurants, we can change that mindset there. So it's actually two industries. It's working with the food business sector and the healthcare sector.
Okay.
So it's combined.
Interesting. And where are you right now? So where in terms of startup development are you? Is this an idea? Are you making it right now? Yeah.
So
Okay.
currently we're on the prototyping stage currently, and we're very excited because we already have the prototype, and now we've connected with different collaborators, with food distributors, restaurants, and also HMOs. Those are three primary markets that we're eyeing into, and we've already discussed with them, and they have already gave us feedback, and those feedback of course would be valuable in developing our prototypes. And right now, we're just really happy that we will be able to pilot it in the next few months. And of course, we would definitely reiterate again, so that we can actually launch it full time in the market. So that's really the goal for us.
And actually, just to share, we both love food. I'm a foodie, and Evan is a proud food blogger.
Yes, so I have a food blogging website. It's called The Tennis Foodie. It's an award-winning food blog. So I curate different restaurants as well, and all over the world. So I literally travel for food. So if anyone's listening, maybe you can subscribe or check my website. It's thetennisfoodie.com. So it's really a passion of mine, because by training, I'm a pharmacist and a scientist. Jazel here is a registered marketing professional. So we really came from the technical and the marketing side. It's really two fields that's been really conflicting sometimes, because I have the technical knowledge and they have the marketing side. They really want to be aggressive in terms of marketing, but sometimes regulatory wise and technical wise, it's not feasible. So right now we're finding the balance between the two and making sure that these two fields are intertwined and collaborating well. Just like the subject that we're taking now, it's art science. Art and science are two different domains, but sometimes there would be a marriage between the two. So that's our plan in our platform as well.
Well, amazing. Can you put in your website, your food blog, in the chat?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I can definitely put it here.
Since Eman started curating the list of the best restaurants in Manila, and for example here in Makati, we're actually in talks with them to make sure that we can pilot and run the prototype to them and see what the effect on the customer experience, on the food ordering experience, because we really wanted to start from there.
Interesting. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned your team experience, because that's just something that a lot of people forget about. So, oftentimes in the startup world, if you're looking for investment or funding, they're going to make that decision based on the team, based on the people. So I think it's really important that you have that solid background. It sounds like you really know these industries that you're moving into, which I think is a really good thing. So, this is it right here, the tennis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the good thing about it as well is that our projects are not just tech-driven. It's not just business-minded project. We're actually trained to be empathic with people, and it's also related to sustainable development goals. We specifically want to target different SDGs, and we're really passionate about it, and we've joined competitions as well. So it's really an advantage for us to to always highlight that our project will not just benefit in terms of the profit, but it would also actually tackle life situations or real world problems. And we always want to go back to our roots and use our experience and our emotions and make it into very sustainable and a much more in line with the SDGs.
Yeah.
That's why when we think about our like what would be like our logo, like a
Our
company
logo
name.
and company name.
So we're thinking like, should be related to food
Or tech. So we had that, probably that was one of our initial struggles to really brand it in such a way that we are able to highlight the thing that we want to show, but at the same time, there would be an inculcation of the values and the traditions that we have as Filipinos. So we chose Padama because we want to ensure that people would have that care, and care and support. So we want to highlight that, and
interestingly, we can create an acronym for that. So PADAMA actually stands for Patient Access Dashboard and Matching Analytics. So it's a food, it's a food analytics platform wherein we wanted to bridge the food industry with the health industry into one.
I love that. So, cool. This has been, I totally see the snapshot. Before I start diving in and asking questions, I have just one for you. So what do you see being kind of one of your biggest successes so far? And then what do you see as one of your biggest challenges coming up here in the future?
Okay, well, probably the success would be our mini milestones. Me and Jazel, we've been friends for a long time, and we're from the same program, and we make sure that we have mini milestones. We celebrate small wins, be it failures or be it competition wins. So we always make sure that we learn from our mistakes and we learn from these experiences, because we know that these experiences would lead us to a greater heights. And we always make sure that we're grounded despite the competitions that we win. And we always make sure to always go back and ask the industry, we ask our mentors, and we really ask for guidance. So I think the most important thing is team dynamics, teamwork, and collaboration. Those are the things that I think most startups would always have a difficulty. And I remember one colleague of mine before would always tell me that always leave your ego behind, because sometimes if you have that ego, then sometimes you feel that you're always correct when in fact you're not correct. So always have that open mind and always make sure to take all the positive and be it negative criticisms and take that, digest that, and process it in such a way that you'll learn from that experience. So I think one of the major challenges that we have would be, since we're not that techy, so we're looking for that missing component in our puzzle. Since I'm very technical, I know the knowledge. Jazel is very into marketing and advertising. So the only missing part will be the tech part. So I think that's one of the goals here. We joined Thought for Food because we feel that be able to, we need that support, and we will be able to collaborate with these key people or key stakeholders. And we feel that eventually, if we further iterate and develop this idea, then we would be able to materialize it and help people. Because our goal here is to really help people. It also comes down to our experience, because I have a food allergy myself, so it really stems with a problem, a real life problem. So you want to empathize with other patients and consumers as well.
Yeah. Cool. So I've so many thoughts. So I'm just gonna dive in. So stop me at any point. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions, and I'm glad you said open-minded, because sometimes I can ask some weird questions, so be ready for it.
Yes.
I think one thing I just heard, one thing I just heard that I love is that, well, I'm sorry that you have a food allergy, but I think it's really important that you solve problems that you understand. So you understand this, you understand what you need and what can make your life easier, better, safer, healthier. So cool. I think my first question for you is, so when you were giving me your pitch, you talked about kind of 3 different customer segments. You talked about food industry, food business, like I'm guessing that's like restaurants, right? Like helping them come up with your food plan. You've talked about nutritionists who might tell those restaurants what you need or who might inform you what you need. But then you also have like the individual user, like the customer, like the person who has that food allergy. So it's really hard to try to target that many different sectors all at one time. So yeah, so my question for you is like,
talk about the business model of Padama. So we will actually start in a business B2B model, wherein we will sell and license the platform to like different homegrown restaurants here in the Philippines. And we can actually offer white label also, wherein since we will revolutionize the order experience, we will, let's say, for example, X restaurant will be sharing a specific site to their customers. So upon ordering, or before they order, they go to a specific site. It's Padama powered, and they'll be answering the survey and whatnot. And by that platform, it can create meals straight to the kitchen of the restaurant, and then they can prepare the food.
So would everyone order that way? Or like only if I come in and say I have an allergy to peanuts, then I order that way? Or does everyone just like
Yeah, so actually we take into consideration the customer experience. So let's say if you happen to be a loyal customer of the restaurant, we can, opt to, get or order their preferred meals. But, we wanted to offer this to everyone. Let's say if you wanted to be part of this movement, it's like kind of like a campaign tied to the food restaurant. It's not just about, hey, we have, we try this new menu board. It's not about that. It's actually more on, hey, you can be part of this movement. We can actually help you with your eating habits. Let us help you. And if they really wanted to, opted in on this kind of experience, then they can enjoy it. But it's open for everyone.
Okay. So okay. I have to reorient myself. So because I think, because now you're talking about, so this is sounding more like a like food service, like you're an ordering platform. You're like an online digital menu or something like that.
That's how we'll start, because the vision is to actually build the database, the food database. We can't have it now. We don't have the partners yet. I mean, the restaurants yet. So that's why our goal is to get the list of data, get the list of what people actually prefer on a specific restaurant, what menus do they want, and do some sort of like food matching. Let's say many people actually order chicken, but then this kind of menu, and we will have we can form some sort of tagging and AI. But again, as Eman mentioned, we really need like that kind of support, since we don't have that strong background on IT and on how to manage a platform. Yeah.
Got it. So you're a food blogger. It sounds like you're very kind of plugged into this. Like, what have some of these restaurants said to you? Like, I'm just curious about like what your conversations have been with them so far.
All right. So because every blogger, every food blogger would have their own style. So my own style would be, I would always talk to the chef and the business owners about the experience, the common feedbacks that they get, and I would always ask them, do you serve those people with food restrictions or food allergies? And probably around 15% of these restaurants would always just say yes, and the rest of the 85% would say no. And then because I travel a lot as well, I remember when I went to the States last May, there's this one restaurant in Kansas City wherein they're very vigilant in terms of asking. Before you order, they would always ask you, what are your food allergies and food restriction? So our vision would be the same for the Philippines and for the rest of the Asian countries as well, that we should empower these restaurants to actually inform the patients and the consumers to have, to be more aware of what they're eating. Because the problem is they would serve the food, but then they would always forget that these people would be allergic to some of the raw ingredients inside that specific dish. And we want to empower, these restaurants.
Got it. So I'm curious about why you have chosen to work with the food businesses. Because just follow with me here for a little bit. So because I'm thinking as I talk here too. So because that core problem you're solving isn't necessarily for the restaurants. The core problem you're solving is for people with food allergies.
Yes.
So
the goal is to build the food database, food management database. But in order to do that, we need to get the data points, or like where do we exactly, how do we do curation? And we wanted to target like the food business sector, specifically the restaurants. Since they have the menu, we can check their ingredients, and from our end, we will do the matching.
And also, because we started as a B2C initially, it's our idea, but then it would not be that too possible or feasible because given that there's thousands of apps, health apps, and we don't want to be labeled as another food or another health app because we're very specific and niche, and we want to really empower the food allergy sector. That's why we actually decided to really partner with these restaurants, because they would be the first-hand enablers of this platform. It's easier for us to get data, and because there's lack of data and publications, I think that is our primary goal, to actually have that primary data and use that to actually do further studies as well. It would not just benefit our organization, but it would also add value to the scientific and the food community, and that's always have been our goal, to really add value.
Got it.
Because if we don't add value, then there's no sense in doing the project. So it's always additional value.
Yeah.
Not just for profit, but also economically.
Yeah.
Also talking to like a food distributor. We've actually reached out with Nestle Philippines, and they told us like how they do their food innovation, and they actually gave us ideas also, like if we are to target the food distributor sector, we can do this route. So I think for our first, from our first to 3 months, we're just on field. We talk to a different industry, like which is actually who is the best to target? Is it the food distributor? Is it the patient? Is it the clinic? So we actually talked to like a healthcare provider also. And they again shared with us what value they wanted us to do. So and it really boils down on how powerful our food data can be. So it's about making sure that if we are to build a food matching database or a food curation database, it should work. And so but right now we know that we have a gap, which is we don't have those food menus, we don't have those food products. It's in the business. So you have to work with the business and partner with them and see like how or what value can we give.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I think that last point that you just said is what I was kind of thinking. So as you continue to go through this pivot, it sounds like you pivoted. I think it would be important for you to refocus on that value. So
all right, thank you.
Value and align it with your customer, right? So if your customer is the food business, right? And you can have different value propositions for different customer segments. Okay. So the value proposition that you said was about the individual with food allergies. Yes. But the value proposition for the restaurant or the food industry would be, we can now serve a new sector of customers. We can increase, if you said only 15% of restaurants serve people with food allergies, that's 85% people. What number of people is that? So now if you partner with us, if you work with us to institute this, You have access to this many more people, and you know you're going to serve them in a safe manner.
Yes.
You probably are also getting some good marketing and publicity from it. It's a differentiator for your company. So you just have to start thinking about it in terms of like, what is the value they're receiving? And you mentioned all of that, but I think when you give the pitch, like make sure that that becomes super clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. And then the same thing with nutritionists, right? So what is the value that you're providing to nutritionists? Well, let's think about what are our nutritionists trying to do? They're trying to make sure that their patient is eating the right food. They're trying to make sure that they're following a food plan, and maybe they want to make sure that they keep this person as a client or a patient or a customer. So here's a way that they can continually engage them and make sure that they're following up and doing what they said they were going to do and what you asked them to do. Right? So,
And if I just may add, well, I think it's in the behavior actually that not everyone actually see a nutritionist. So what they wanted to do is to change that, kind of behavior wherein the nutritionist actually is accessible, and that you can get the help of a nutritionist through our platform.
Yeah.
Because we do the creation.
Okay, I see. Interesting. Yeah, I would just say, with that, sometimes it's good to have those like future visions, but like make sure you don't try to do too much all at one time. Like it's easier if you get really focused and niche and just say, this is what we're going to do. This is what will be happening in the future. But yeah.
Understand that we, at some point, like Emin and I is like, oh, we want to do this. And like, okay, we have to like calm down and just
really refocus.
Yes, one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
And I tend to have like this kind of go attitude, but Emin balances that.
Of course, yeah. No, I know, and it's totally fine. It's like paint that picture. I think it's just good to like state, when you're working on in the new competition or when you're talking to your stakeholders, like this is what we're doing right now. This is what we want to do in 5 years, and it just helps them,
That kind of transition. Okay, got it.
Cool. So that was good. So you didn't mention this when you were talking, but you mentioned it in your kind of written responses before this, and it was about the competitors. So you were saying no one like else is currently doing this, and I believe that in the terms of kind of the technology side of things. But there, like, so Emmanuel, you said you have a food allergy. Is somehow you were making this work? Like somehow you got around it. Like it wasn't using technology, but somehow you were able to eat at restaurants and get served food, right? So that's also a competitor. So I'm just really curious to hear from you how you accomplished this in the past.
Yeah, so you're correct. So maybe on the tech side, we don't have any competitors yet, but yes, they are already doing it, but it's very few. And our goal is to really empower these restaurants to actually do the same practice, because what we want to ensure is that people are eating healthy and good food, and they don't have any restrictions to it.
Yeah. So my question is, how did you eat at those restaurants? So when you would show up, like what was just that whole process like when you got there?
Yeah, so whenever I dine in, so I would always ask them to, of course, give me the menu and always check what are the things that I really love. And then before I actually order, I would ask them, is there any specific ingredients that I'm allergic to? And they would always ask the chef. So I think that's the key. It's really more on the awareness and also having that information coming from the stakeholders within the restaurant. So I think that's also one of the things that we want to do to really empower them to have a more informative menu as well moving forward.
So why that's interesting is that was not a technological solution. So you said the problem you're having right now is you don't have the technical background. So I'm going to challenge you to, try to put aside your ideas and everything that you've been working on and just kind of come with me on this journey here for a little bit. But my challenge is, do you need a tech platform? Like if your goal is to help restaurants provide safe food and your goal is to help consumers eat safe food, maybe you need a certification business. Maybe you can go into a restaurant and say, we're going to look at your list of menu items and we're going to help you identify which ones can be made without gluten or without peanuts or without, right? And we can then mark that on your menu. So you don't have to build out a whole new technological solution. Maybe that's still in the future, but to get started right now, like, could you, just like they may mark like vegetarian or vegan, can you have a special section that you help them develop that is like, food
Actually,
safe?
I've thought about it before, but then here in our institution, we're really encouraged to do a tech-driven solution. And because I think that once we establish the data, because we don't have the data yet, once we establish the data, then we can actually drill down all these businesses and these restaurants within the specific population, and we can actually have that information ready with us and get some insights to it, and actually perform this specific certification, because that's actually one of the second phases of our project. Apart from giving the solution, we want to give information, and through that certification, and we're also planning to have like a webinar or like a digital platform wherein they can actually study. We can give the certification to them once they've accomplished this.
It's a food and health community
Yes.
site.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we can also work on with the global community and just make that like some sort of, not really, I have to agree with you that that could be like another point of view that we should also consider, like
Well, especially, yeah, well, sorry.
It's okay. It's something.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's something that we will take note. It's an interesting, it's an interesting. Yeah.
Well, and think about it from this standpoint too. So if you neither of you have the technical skills, you're going to either have to get a co-founder or you're going to have to hire someone. The more co-founders you have, the more money you're going to need to pay all of yourselves once you graduate from school, right? If you hire someone, you're going to need money, and maybe you have that, maybe that's something that you can do. But I always encourage people, like, how can you bootstrap? For me personally, I don't like raising money from investors because they take an ownership of your company. So if you can do something that doesn't require money, like going to these restaurants that you already have a great relationship with and saying, we want to identify and put like a stamp by what some of these meals are. And if like every time someone orders one of those meals, we get 50 cents, or we get, I don't know, like 1% of what that meal costs. Then there's a way that you can start generating revenue so that you can start to pay and build out your technology platform. And at the same time, the other reason I like to do that, do things physically before you do them digitally, is because it's going to tell you what these restaurants want. So right now you've been talking to them and you kind of get an idea, but you never really know what someone wants until they start paying for it, or until they start using it. So if in this process you're doing this and you start to discover, like, wow, this chef, loves it. Like, they want to have 5 meals that are food safe for people. Or you might find, like, wow, this restaurant wants all of their meals to be food safe. What does that look like? Or you might find someone who just says, we don't really care. And even if someone orders something, we're just going to do whatever we do regardless, right? Like, these are all really important things to know. And you can't really learn that if you use a digital platform. It's really hard to gather that. Yeah. So you can also think about this as a prototype. And if people push back, you can explain, like, we're going to do like a real life prototype. We're just, instead of spending 6 months to develop something, we're going to spend 2 months to go out there and do something. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you for that. Definitely, we'll take note of that and think about it as well.
Yeah, we're actually thankful again for this conversation, since it also gave us another perspective on dealing with the business that we wanted to do for Patamay.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's why I'm here. You know, I have a lot of startups, and one of the common things I see is, you know, I actually, just a startup I was working with this past week, they were saying something similar. Like, they wanted to develop an app. They had this whole plan, and when I started to ask them, well, why do you want to do that? They realized, like, oh, we actually don't need an app. What we really need is just like a spreadsheet, and we'll just, you know, go from there. So. I just had another question for you. So shifting gears a little bit, but how are you planning to make money? You know, within the social entrepreneurship world and making impact, I think we oftentimes forget that we need to make money to be financially sustainable. So I'm just really curious, like, what your revenue model is, how you're going to price things, and yeah.
So, given that we're in a developing country, and you know everything is very expensive, and you know when people hear if your solution is very expensive, they tend to shy away. So we want to make it in such a way that it's competitively priced, but at the same time, we're actually you know avoiding the burning rate. But at the same time, we're earning a specific margin because the goal here is not just, you know, for profit. We actually really want to contribute to the scientific and the food industry. We want to give back. So it's really a very small margin, and from there we can actually branch out and do other side projects as well. So it's really just the first phase for us, and we really want to, you know, iterate and, you know, innovate. That's why we're here for. We really want to innovate. And I remember one of our professors mentioned that it's not always your first invention or your first innovation that gets successful. It's actually your stepping stone to build another company or build another innovation. And if there's sometimes there's also previous innovations already wherein you can still innovate on it. So we're still very fresh and young in terms of this entrepreneurial spirit and social entrepreneurship, but we really want to learn from these experiences, and you know the feedback that we get from collaborators and industry partners are very valuable. So definitely we can learn, of course, from you as well and from our other mentors. So it's always a learning experience for us every day. There would always be mini milestones.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I think this is an important one for you guys to think about. So I don't know if you got a chance to download the Startup Guts cards, but one of the cards in there is the revenue model.
Oh yes, I actually talked to one of the the lecturer. I was able to talk to him, and he's actually coming. He'll drop by this December in Manila and Malaysia. So we're very excited to meet him and to, of course, get some insights and get his expertise as well, because we want to, you know, really learn from these great mentors.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I bring it up is learn from people. You can Google, just like go to YouTube and like type in revenue model, and there'll be some really good. But there's a lot of different ways to think about this. And I think it is important for you guys, as you're developing this, like, to also start to think about how can you test revenue models. So oftentimes we talk about testing our prototype, testing our product, but we often don't talk about testing how we make money.
Yeah. All right.
I like to wrap that in there. So we just mentioned one is like, some different revenue model ideas that I'm just having for you are the restaurants buy it, right? So that's just like, and maybe that's like a subscription fee. So every so often they pay something. That would seem like the most straightforward. Maybe it's every time someone buys one of the food products that you help find or identify or point people to. So then that's an incentive for the restaurant, because the more they sell, the more you get, but it's better for everyone involved. Yeah. You know, maybe there's always the possibility of running ads, but you need to have, I think, like 20,000 people to start running ads. So it's not really, and you might know that better than me, Emmanuel, with your food blog. So, but I would just encourage you to, like, as you start going out there and talking to these people more and more, and start is like, how can you figure out a way to get this financially sustainable? Because the only way you can really scale this and make the impact you want is if you can make it financially sustainable. So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to see some other things that I had. Do you have other questions for me? I have some other questions on here, but what are some things that you want to ask me?
One question. So, because there's a lot of competitors already in this platform, there's 915 already registered. But because we check from time to time, and we're very we're very persistent really in doing the challenges and getting deep dive with the lectures, and we're very thankful with of course the lectures, and it really helped us really shape these ideas. So my question is that what would be the process for the whole competition, since there would be the final pitch on March? So is it needed for us to really finish everything in this platform, or how would be the the selection process, given that there's a lot of competitors already?
Yeah. Well, that would be a question for probably Chelsea or Yana to answer if they're on the call.
Yeah.
I think that changed a little bit. So.
Hello, Chelsea. Good morning.
I'm actually in London, so it's the afternoon for me.
Oh, hello. Hi. Good afternoon. You must be having afternoon tea now.
Oh, yes. I'm actually making an egg. But no, I can jump in really quick. If you just want to let me reiterate the question.
Yeah, we just want to ask what would be the final criteria or selection process for the final pitch that will be happening in Malaysia, I believe, in March, because there's a lot of challenges in the platform and there's no specific timelines currently that is set. So we just want to ask that question as well.
Yeah, sure. So we do actually have the criteria is on the front page when you sign up, but I'll happily share that with you again. We're quite broad in what we're looking for. We do have very specific tracks, as you may have seen when you're signing up. We do have prize challenges and sub challenges that we've partnered with some people, and that is one of them is focused on the circular food system. Another one is colonizing in space, which is like looking at different food in space and how we grow it there. And then the third one is a lot about regenerative agroforestry and agriculture. Now, those are sub-challenges, and we will add to those, but we also do offer other cash prizes, which you can also find in the Introduction Lab. So it really is, it is no specific criteria. Our call to action is how do you sustainably nourish 10 billion people by 2050. So we keep it broad for all these different reasons. You will be able to submit your pitch at the end, but it'll go live at the end of November, the page where you can submit it, but obviously you have until the 24th of January. So,
all right.
does that answer your question, or would you like any finer detailing?
No, you actually answered our question, so thank you for that. I reiterating it again because there's so many things already in the platform, so we're very just excited to getting deep dive. Yeah. Yes.
And if I could just hop in and say, just after I've worked with a lot of Thought for Food people and a lot of other people, and
we want to hear the stories from you also.
Yeah. Well, I think the teams that are most successful in pitching, especially in kind of these shorter, you have to come across in your application and also in your videos in a short period of time. I think there's really like three things that help people stand out. The first one is just being super, super clear on your problem and customer. So just like we were talking about in the beginning, you kind of named 3 customers and 3 different problems. That's great. And you did a good job. A lot of people come in and say, like, we want to end world hunger, or we want to help make sure everyone has healthy food to eat. Like, that's not a solvable problem. So you did a good job of naming some real solvable challenges. But I think to get really clear on the pitch, the more focused you can be, the better. So you can still you could still name maybe all three of them, but like I said, just do it in order of like, right now, this is what we're doing. In the future, we want to expand into this. But so that's like the first thing, get super clear on that. I think the second thing is talk about your solution, talk about what you're doing. And the important thing in there is to talk about your traction. You know, this is all of these pitch competitions. It's going past just an idea. It's what have you actually done to this point? So whether that's you're developing a prototype that you're testing with people, maybe you're doing some on the ground tests with restaurants now to start validating your idea, like all of those things work really, really well and look really good. And then that last one is about your team. So we want to know why you, what experience do you have? Yeah, how can you make this happen? So anyway, that's just what I've seen to work really well. I'll let Chelsea hop in if there's anything she wants to clarify or if I missed. But if you cover those three things, I think you're going to be pretty solid for Thought for Food or for any other competition.
I'm going to stop speaking in a second, but I did just want to jump in and say the digital labs have been designed for you guys to explore all the different modules and topics at your leisure and for you to decide what you think is important. So it isn't, of course, we look at everybody and their engagement, and we kind of we're trying to find some kind of rating system to at least be able to pinpoint which of you are really engaging. But at the same time, if there's some things that are not relevant to you, you're not going to be judged on the fact that you haven't completed the whole platform, because it will, by the time you finish in January, there will be so much more content on there that it quite possibly could be impossible to finish it all.
We actually enjoyed getting through the challenges, and also like Evan and I converse a lot of like, how do we, the assignments actually, like some assignments we actually like me and Evan and I actually align on those. So yeah, agree with you.
Go good. So we still have like 15 more minutes. So other questions for me? Otherwise, I'll keep asking you guys questions. How do you want to do this?
Okay, I think I have like another question, since we mentioned earlier that we're kind of like tapping to industries like the food and health sector. Based from your like coaching experience, have you had that kind of startups also that plan to merge and like enter those two industries, like merge those industries? And can you just share the experience, like what industry and how did they actually solve, like, or what value did they bring for both industries? Just asking.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm trying to think of an example. For sure, that definitely happens. Just trying to think through examples. We categorize things into industries, but really what matters is the problems you're addressing and solving.
Yes.
So I think it will be very different if you're providing something for restaurants or if you're providing something for nutritionists. They have just different needs. There's probably different regulations you're going to have to go through. Like it might even have to be like a totally different platform if it's a technology platform. It might use the same database, but it might have a different
use.
So I'm trying to think of an example of like a startup that does that. So there was a startup in one of the past competitions in Thought for Food called Climate Edge. And I think what is a bit similar is they were collecting data from, so Climate Edge, they have a low cost sensor that they install in like smallholder farm fields, specifically in like cocoa or coffee or like cotton kind of farms in South America. And they have two different users. One user, oh, you guys have to leave?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So Climate Edge has two different users. So one would be like the farmers themselves. So the smallholder farmers, how can they use this data to make smarter decisions for their fields? Their other user are groups like Fair Trade or other like farmer organizations who help make more, like, policy decisions or who help to inform the government about what farmers need. So same product, same data, same database,
Okay.
but two very different users. And you could almost say two different sectors. One's like a government sector, one's like an agriculture sector.
Agree.
So it's definitely possible. It's just, you know, I think to get started, like for them to get started, all they were focusing on were the smallholder farmers. So they were able to develop something that was specific for the users. So I think if you're going to do that, get super niche. Just like pick one, make something for them, and then you can start to expand and start to grow. So.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So I think we don't have any questions.
Yeah.
Already. And do you have any other further questions or comments?
No, just, you know, you're doing great. You have the right background. You're doing a great job. I would just encourage you, like, get out there and test it. Like, figure out a way
Yes,
that you.
definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
thank you. We've noted all the things that you've mentioned, and we really reassess if we're going to, you know, do an app or, you know, pursue that route as well, because we see, you know, a good potential to it, and we would also put with our mentors and our collaborators as well.
Thank you very much for making time.
Yeah, it's really an honor for us. When we got the email, we were like very ecstatic about it. Yay!
Well, we're happy to help, and we're all here to help you. You know, we just want to help see more great startups like you guys succeed. So
Yeah, definitely, and we're really looking forward to be, you know, in attendance in the final pitch on March, and we're really crossing our fingers that we would be able to, you know, not just represent our organization but also our country, and really take pride to that.
yeah. Well, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Like I said, get out there and start testing it, and I think you'll have a great shot. So
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ciao.
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 Bye.
Bye.